EmpowerID Innovation. EmpowerID has a long track record as one of the most innovative identity and access management platforms, with many firsts and unique technologies and approaches to identity and access management. To remain on the cutting edge of innovation, EmpowerID has embraced cloud-native computing standards. A few of these are Docker containerization to allow EmpowerID to be deployed in the cloud or on-premise in a dynamically scaling container-based infrastructure, Kubernetes to dynamically manage and host these containers in the cloud or on-premise, Azure DevOps to allow EmpowerID source control to deploy configuration and code using Git in a Git flow model, and Open Policy Agent, which is a new cloud-native foundation incubating standard for distributed, disconnected, microservices-based authorization. EmpowerID's current development and roadmap strongly focuses on a microservices strategy. So whereas traditional application architectures are monolithic, large applications where the different functionality is baked together and tightly coupled, and microservices architecture breaks out the areas of functionality into different, smaller, lightweight microservices. What this allows a product like EmpowerID to do is to provide customers with easier to deploy and more rapidly innovating products. Because the products are broken down into smaller, less connected microservices, each product can follow its own timeline for more rapid development of functionality without retesting the entire application. So new functionality can be developed and deployed at any time independent of other functionality. EmpowerID has many microservices already built and that are shipping and live, and many more new ones on the development roadmap or about to be released. A list of some of these are on the left, including the new My Identity, Identity Self-Service, and white pages, a new version of the IT shopping cart site as a microservice, and other various areas of functionality due to be released as microservices along with our existing microservices. This shows a reference EmpowerID SaaS architecture with EmpowerID running as Docker containers on Kubernetes in Azure. It shows a multiple availability zone infrastructure with no open firewall connections to the customer's on-premise systems, but having them managed through the EmpowerID Cloud Gateway. The EmpowerID Cloud Gateway is a component available for SaaS customers, which is deployed on a Windows 10 or multiple Windows 10 machines on-premise, and that initiates a secure encrypted outbound connection to an Azure Hybrid Queue and EmpowerID SaaS environment. And that outbound-only connection is what EmpowerID's servers in the cloud use to connect to on-premise systems, to inventory, to manage, to provision, and deprovision. Now, in this reference architecture, it shows various EmpowerID components such as our application gateway, our privileged session management, our LDAP virtual directory server, all running on Kubernetes for maximum scalability and elasticity. This same cloud reference architecture can be run by customers on-premise as well, for customers that have a Docker container or Kubernetes infrastructure. A diagram depicting the cloud gateway. As I mentioned, the cloud gateway is crucial for SaaS customers, and it can also be used for on-premise customers. And what it allows you to do is to have your EmpowerID infrastructure running in an environment with no connectivity, no firewall holes or VPNs required to the systems that infrastructure is managing. So the cloud gateway is installed on-premise or wherever your resources and directories and applications might reside. It generates a public key, private key, registers itself with your EmpowerID installation as an EmpowerID Cloud Gateway server, and it connects to a queue. Now, this queue is connected from your EmpowerID infrastructure in the cloud, public or private, and to the cloud gateway, and that's how they communicate with each other. So EmpowerID infrastructure in the cloud or in a private cloud can inventory and manage your on-premise systems just like they were connected with a direct network connection or VPN. A strong area of innovation recently for EmpowerID over the last 18 months has been a focus on design-first thinking. So a new team of user experience designers are working with our developers to design the next generation of EmpowerID web and mobile experiences with a focus on a consumer-like or Apple-like user experience. As we can see here, the MyIdentity mobile phone version provides a very rich user experience. This is an example of the mobile phone, well, actually the MyIdentity web version, showing the same consumer-based user experience that one would expect in the best-of-breed consumer applications. A new IT shopping cart microservice application is due to be released in the first quarter of 2020. This new shopping cart experience is, again, the same consumer-grade experience for business users to easily find applications and resources, network shares, vaulted credentials, anything that they need in a shopping cart experience while shopping for themselves or for others, and while enforcing your organization's risk and SOD policies for these access requests. Also, an area of major innovation is our chatbot. Our chatbot allows EmpowerID customers to expose any workflow process, such as password self-service resets and unlocks, vaulting and unvaulting privileged credentials, help desk resets and unlocks, identity access requests, or even provisioning or SSO, through a conversational user experience with a chatbot. This is great for the accessibility. So for the blind, it's very easy for them to interact with the chatbot. And it's also very convenient for end users who want to interact on a variety of channels, such as their mobile phone, via SMS, Microsoft Teams, or other available channels. As another area of innovation, EmpowerID has embedded deeply with ServiceNow. In this example, you can see ServiceNow with the EmpowerID chatbot embedded so that users within the ServiceNow interface can perform self-service and run those same workflows from EmpowerID. Also, you can see at the top a link to the Reset Password ServiceNow widget so that users can reset all and any of their passwords without leaving ServiceNow. EmpowerID also integrates deeply into ServiceNow, providing multiple workflows in ServiceNow that also interact directly with EmpowerID workflows. In this example, employee onboarding can be initiated and improved within ServiceNow and then fulfilled in EmpowerID to provision the access. We see in this example, management roles can be selected as part of the onboarding experience. EmpowerID has a job that allows it to push requestable entitlements such as roles, groups, or application roles, SAP and others, into ServiceNow so that ServiceNow requests such as onboarding or access requests can be extremely intelligent, allowing end users and managers to pick the exact entitlements. And then upon completion of the approval process in ServiceNow calls the EmpowerID REST API, and EmpowerID fulfills the access knowing exactly the entitlements to provision that carry all the way through the process. This example, we can see an access request in ServiceNow, where managers or end users can pick application roles, SAP roles, groups in Active Directory or Azure, or really any system, and make an access request in ServiceNow and have that fulfilled through EmpowerID in the end for complete end-to-end automation. One of the most innovative and unique concepts is EmpowerID's complete automation, or everything is a workflow model. This is something unique only to EmpowerID. In the EmpowerID everything is a workflow model, all of the actions a user performs in the web interface or via the REST APIs or the LDAP virtual directory or the SCIM virtual directories are visually designed workflows. These visually designed workflows are created in the EmpowerID Workflow Studio, which is provided to our customers. And EmpowerID provides over 1,000 workflows. So over 1,000 workflows are immediately available and usable without requiring any development. Now, for customers that have special organizational processes they'd like to be modeled, they can use our Workflow Studio to modify the existing workflows in a very supportable fashion, or even to create their own workflows so that they can automate the process matching their organizational standards to decrease the cost of identity management. As an example of the flexibility of our workflow model, during a recent proof of concept with a banking customer in Germany, our team was asked on the fly about whether or not we had a workflow that would allow temporary privileged access but pre-approved, so that users could be granted pre-approved admin access to application roles or other security groups that they could then request at any time, not requiring it to go for approval because it was pre-approved, and the access granted for only a 4-hour increment and then removed. EmpowerID did not have an exact match to this workflow, matching their pre-approval model, but our developers were quickly able to demonstrate in less than an hour how to use Workflow Studio to modify an existing workflow to exactly match their own organization's process. And again, this workflow was created and modified within Workflow Studio so that it's not custom code and would be supported on all future upgrades. Here we see that request in process where the customer requested that they can enter an order ID or a ticket number. They could select a group to join, which could be a group in any system or application role, anything ranging from AWS to ServiceNow to Active Directory, or as we see here, an SAP ABAP firefighter role. The access would go for approval if it wasn't pre-approved, but in this case, since a request had already been made to pre-approve this access, the admin could request this firefighter role at any time for a 4-hour increment, again with detailed audit tracking and approval routing in advance in this case. And here's an example of the workflow where the user fills out a form to make the request, and then if it requires approval, it goes for approval, but if it's pre-approved, it adds the user to the group, it waits the allotted 4-hour time period, and then it removes the user from the group. And again, the group could be an application role or any type of access in a connected and managed system. And at each step in the process, there's auditing, logging, and tracking. So you'll see EmpowerID, since 2005, has been innovating across the identity management platform. So everything from innovations in single sign-on, both federation, API gateway, reverse proxy technology, to adaptive multi-factor authentication, to virtual directories based on LDAP, SCIM, or Radius. EmpowerID also covers the whole range of privileged access management functionality, including password vaulting and privileged session management, where sessions, RDP or SSH, can be initiated using vaulted credentials and optionally recorded. EmpowerID has the strongest authorization engine with authorization support for role-based access control, attribute-based access control, and even policy-based access control, which is the best-of-breed hybrid between RBAC and ABAC. EmpowerID includes role mining analytics, dynamic group generation, self-service access requests, and also deep compliance enforcement with risk-based policies.